The more I talk about this story, the less I can get my head around it, and particularly get my head around the reaction to it from a lot of people, Fox News and Trump officials and others, which is, of course, the scandal that broke in the Atlantic where the person you're seeing there on screen, Jeffrey Goldberg, was inadvertently added, well, we believe inadvertently, to a group chat, a Signal group chat where war plans were being discussed. The strikes against the Houthis before they happened were being discussed. Not something that you're supposed to accidentally leak to people or discuss such top secret things on a Signal group chat. And I want to discuss Goldberg, the author, responding to attacks against him, against MAGA, because that's the only, it's not even like he broke a story like the suckers and losers where we don't have audio recording so MAGA can go, he's just lying, he's fake news. He's literally just saying, here are things that here is what was done to me. I was added to this group text. Let me play this clip and I'm going to bring in Jessiah.
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
I don't expect you're going to respond to every aspect of that, but nobody was texting war plans. Again, you have extensive reporting. Anybody can read it. What is your reaction to that?
Look, I'm going to be responsible here and not disclose the things that I read and saw. I will describe them to you. The specific time of a future attack, specific targets, including human targets, meant to be killed in that attack, weapon systems, even weather reports, that the government is I don't know why Hegseth was sharing it with everybody. I mean, the precise detail and then a long section on sequencing. This is going to happen. Then that is going to happen. After that happens, this happens. Then that happens. And then we go and find out if it worked. I mean, he can say that it wasn't a war plan, but it was a minute by minute accounting of what was about to happen, organized by CENTCOM, Central Command, which is the military oversight.
So we have more, but to discuss, I want to bring in Jessiah from Pondering Politics. Jessiah is the best. I was going to say one of the best. The best. And he's paying attention.
No, I am. I appreciate that. But if you could check your phone, I just sent you an invitation to join a Signal group. I've got some highly classified national security information to share with you, and I need you to just accept it and join.
I did say when I covered this on a different segment, why do they add me? I want to be in it. No one ever invites me to the class.
LB, guys, LB. Those are the initials. Michael Waltz, if you're watching, please be sure to like and subscribe. But yeah, I mean, this is stunning stuff, man. I mean, it's like you step on a rake, but you were the one who carried the rake and you dropped the rake right in front of you and then you stepped on it. I mean, What a terrible performance from the Trump administration's DEI hire, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Hey, you said something about someone stepping on a rake. Someone has set something right in front of them and then step on it. And it was Hegseth with a skateboard. And he hit himself right in the crotch. Yeah, and this is let me just play it one more time. This is the visual representation of what just happened to the Trump government. Oof. And
now listen, I'm sorry. Could you just pull that image right back up, please?
I just X'd out of it.
Oh, so listen, I won't sit here and let you slander our eminently qualified defense secretary. I'm sorry, when I see that clip, I think to myself, military leader right there, okay?
So Jessiah, do you think, here's what I'm curious to hear your thoughts on. Right now we're hearing a whole lot of Goldberg's an idiot, who cares? And then other parts, like I saw Ducey sometimes will throw out something more reasonable. And even I saw Kayleigh McEnany was going, yeah, this is not ideal. Do you think the argument from them will transition because of the number one, concerned nature of this by itself as a story, but number two, the inconsistency from the right-wing reaction to this versus the reaction to Hillary's emails for years and years and years and years and years, which, as you pointed out in the segment that we did over on your channel, Pondering Politics, go subscribe. If you're not, you're making a mistake, people. Is this story is more blatant than even the Hillary one that they made such a deal of. Do you think they're going to stick with the sort of the Hannity argument of this is a non-story and the media is going to try to inflame it? Or do you think ultimately they're going to have to, what do you think their reaction is going to be as it progresses over the days?
I have no confidence, none, that collectively that Fox News or their apologists and right-wing media, the Trump administration's apologists and right-wing media, will have a true introspective moment and say, you know what? We imposed these standards on the Democrats. Our team violated those standards. It would be dishonest of us. We really need to, there should be investigations. I don't expect any of that. Yeah. Although I will say there have been a couple. Brit Hume called out Pete Hegseth, legendary conservative Fox News analyst. Even he publicly called out Hegseth for his response in the first clip that you played. So no, I don't expect collectively that they will stay principled, because the entire MAGA movement will cease to function if principles are self-imposed and enforced. What I expect is one of two things. Yeah, this is a nothing burger in the liberal media is, it's a whole thing. Like, this is liberal media pouncing. Or they'll do what Will Cain and a couple of others did, which was, sure, they made a mistake by getting a reporter in on this, but really the bigger story is the collaborative process between these these high profile Trump officials, the dialogue there, it's so collaborative when they have a fire emoji and a flexing emoji and all that stuff. It's just really you see the process. It's going to be one of those two forms of cope.
I saw Mike Johnson said, well, I think what this demonstrated is the precision of decision making. And it's no, but we're not supposed to see that process, Mike. We're not supposed to know about these conversations. My goodness. Good thing Goldberg was the one who was added, not someone else who could have done something with that information before the strikes took place. Did you see one of the things we talked about today on the show, Jessiah, was this guy, Joey something, a MAGA influencer posted?
Yes, Joey Manarino.
Tell people what the gist of what he said.
He's sitting there and okay, so this guy, by the way, as far as MAGA influencers go, I mean, weapons grade psychotic, genuinely one of the worst. And he's back there saying, this isn't an accident. Okay. If anybody here thinks it's an accident that the Trump administration added Jeffrey Goldberg, you guys are crazy. Donald Trump is playing 4D chess. He's playing the liberal media against, and what's interesting is about here's the thing. There's obviously a lot of grifting in the MAGA movement. We know that. But there's a genuine cultish element. And the problem is sometimes it's hard to distinguish the two. So I don't know if Manarino is kind of a cunning grifter or if he's a stupid cultist, because he does a hell of an impression of the latter if he's the former. But yeah, that was his cope. 4D chess by Trump.
Yeah, and he was like, if you think some of the smartest, wisest, most competent people in the world would make such a mistake, well, what happens, Joey, when they admit it was a mistake? Because then you're...
Well, that's the thing. He's right. The smartest, most competent people wouldn't make that mistake, but that's why none of them are in the Trump administration, right?
Exactly.
So,
let's play more from Goldberg's appearance on Jen Psaki's show.
I think it's just very flummoxing to me because I haven't seen this kind of unserious behavior before. And, and the Secretary of Defense, all due respect, in that presentation seems like a person who's unserious and is trying to deflect from the fact that he participated in a conversation on an unclassified commercial messaging app that he probably shouldn't have participated in.
And there are receipts for it, which is always...
I love Jessiah when he goes, with all due respect, he's a very unserious person. It's the no offense, with all due respect, Hegseth's an idiot. With all due respect, I have no respect for him.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of the problem. I mean, it's frustrating on two fronts. I mean, again, on the substance, I don't think that Pete Hegseth merits respect. I mean, listen, was he a decorated combat veteran? Yes. Does he deserve respect for that? Sure. But he had no experience commanding the Defense Department. He was not a high-level officer. He has no administrative or, again, high-end strategic experience in this regard. He's conducted himself in a way which merits disrespect, not respect. But this is part of the problem. The MAGA movement will never show respect for Democrats, or, for example, like Lloyd Austin, President Biden's defense secretary, also a decorated combat veteran, but unlike Hegseth, had vast amounts of administrative and strategic experience, which isn't to say that he didn't make mistakes. He did. Like that time he went missing because, he had for 24 hours because he had surgery and they just didn't inform the president. That was a colossal mistake and it merited harsh criticism. But that's the difference, by the way. No, you and I will acknowledge that publicly. The right will never acknowledge this colossal failure by Hegseth, which quite frankly merits his resignation. I wish Goldberg would not add phrases like "with all due respect" because Hegseth deserves none.
Well, I mean, technically he didn't say anything false. With all due respect, which is zero.
Right, exactly.
I didn't specify how much respect is due.
It's open to interpretation.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. One other clip I want to play to have your reaction to. One of our favorites, Jessica Tarlov, had this to say.
Donald Trump's ratings on handling the economy, inflation, cost of living are all tanking. And we're seeing this administration's incompetence and recklessness on a scale unimaginable. I'm sure you guys saw this incredible Jeffrey Goldberg piece from right before we got on air a couple years ago about Goldberg, who is a journalist at The Atlantic, being invited into a private Signal chat with all of our national security heads. So Rubio, Hegseth, Waltz, Tulsi Gabbard, Scott Bessent's in there, et cetera. And they are planning on just Signal to drop bombs in Yemen. So they're not doing this in a skiff. They're doing it on an app that you and I, we all have on our phones. And it's obviously incredibly reckless, national security risks. I don't want to ever hear butthurt emails again. I don't know what's going to happen to anyone who's involved in something like this. But on top of it, you have the vice president. He's in there as well, contradicting Donald Trump on his policy on Europe. So all of this is going on. We're only a couple months into this administration. And when Carville says, let's see what they do, you get stuff like this.
You know how Goldberg left the group chat? The only thing I don't understand, it's not a crime to just not leave the group chat for a while and then report on this a little later, right? I guess you want to blow the whistle so that the risks of this aren't, going to lead to, like, imagine if it got hacked and he knew he could have stopped some security breach that was further than that. She did say a few years ago, this was all just a few days. I think that was just her misspeaking briefly, but a perfect statement there. I love that she said, I don't want to hear about her emails ever again. That's you just can't ever bring that up again or anything else. Go for it.
I mean, I'll point out that if I remember correctly, the Five didn't even, so the Five will typically cite topics. I don't even know if Jessica's allowed to bring up a topic. She might be the only one who just has to react to the topics that the others cherry pick. But she had to shoehorn that in because they did not want to talk about this topic. The Five, even though this broke well in advance of the episode, they just didn't want to talk about it, right? I mean, this is what they do. And thank God she's always on fire on this. I told her, I'm like, man, are you on the Five today? Because I can't wait to watch. And she's like, have your popcorn ready. I mean, because this is huge. And Fox, I actually posted about this yesterday on Twitter. If you actually looked at Fox's YouTube page, there was one reference yesterday, one to the scandal, and it was President Trump denies any knowledge of, that was the thing. I mean, it's just pathetic. And she does heroes work because she's outnumbered 4-1, and they constantly heckle and interrupt. And actually, after that clip, Jesse Waters did the butter emails thing. He tried to do the whataboutism. He's just not able to do it credibly. But yeah, this is where we are. This is how desperate and flat-footed they are. And again, that's why it's so important, as we discussed on the collaborative video you and I did for my channel. Democrats really have to stay on top of this, because if you just assume, okay, it's made news and people are upset about it, so that momentum will carry. Bullshit. It's just not true. That momentum will fade unless Democrats make a point to hammer the Trump administration on this for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. The biggest misunderstanding in politics that destroys the Democratic Party over and over again is the belief that most people keep up with political news. A tiny percentage of people regularly keep up with political news, and most voting folks right before the election tune in a little bit to campaign stuff, maybe slightly. It's so that's why someone like Trump is so repetitive. You hear him say, for example, he can't give, even though he's the president now and could do whatever the magic thing that he was saying Biden could have done now, he says it never would have happened with Russia. It never would have happened. It never would have happened. It never would have happened. And just to brainwash people, same thing with they're coming from jails, they're coming, and all of his statements, Hillary's crooked, emails, is so that in every venue, and then other people start echoing that message. It's so omnipresent that eventually someone's going to hear it over the course of years in each little pocket of the population. But what Democrats often do is they'll come out and say, I think they seem more outraged about this, but and the media does as well. They'll come out and say, well, this is bad. And then the next day, you never hear about it again. And that's why a great example of this that we've gone through before, and we can sort of close on this, but is the economy thing. Republicans have been shouting from the rooftop that they're better for the economy, despite all data to the contrary. It's not even a debate in which party oversees better economic conditions, but they got people to believe that, even liberals, just because of the repetition. Any closing thoughts, and then tell people where they can find you, Jessiah.
No, I 100% agree, and this to me is a huge litmus test because obviously the Democrats' polling is not particularly good at the moment. Everybody's upset with the Democrats, fellow Democrats included. I'm very upset with the Democrats, and so to me this is a litmus test. Chuck Schumer, as far as I'm concerned, failed a major test, which was over the CR battle. This next one is, how do you respond to what's gone on here with the biggest, most dangerous, most embarrassing national security breach in modern American history? Democrats who don't rise to meet the moment, both in the halls of Congress, so when they're standing at that lectern, when they're giving speeches on the floor of the Senate, or when they're in congressional hearings or in Senate hearings, or if they're not doing interviews, not just on legacy media, but your show and my show. Our inbox should be flooded with elected representatives saying, God, can I get 15 minutes of your time to be on your shows to communicate the threat that this is in terms of this incompetent, reckless national security breach. If Democrats don't collectively rise up, and by that I mean the elected officials, as far as I'm concerned, I'll say it, Luke isn't co-signing it, I think any Democrat who lets this opportunity slip away should be primaried, because you're clearly not up to the challenge. What would Republicans do if the shoe were on the other foot and be ruthless? That is what Democrats should do. And where can people find me? They can find me at youtube.com/@ponderingpolitics. Luke, I appreciate the invitation, man.
You the man.